Cashmaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
I'm Daryl W4, back with a Bad Cop for episode 54 and our 9th Randomize edition. Welcome to the show, and we're glad that you could join us again.
You know, I love these Randomize edition, Daryl. We get to cover such a range of topics. It makes it a lot of fun. Now, next week, we're talking NFC with Bell's Angels, and then the following week, we've rescheduled Aztec to talk about the great Android app for caching, Neon Geo. So we want your comments and questions on these upcoming episodes. The best way to get a hold of us is calling us on our voicemail line. That's area code 206-350-3647. Of course, you can always email us at geogearheads@cashmaniacs.com or social media. You know, we hang out a lot on Google+.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff come to us through Google+. Boy, I can't talk tonight. And we'll hopefully get to some of that stuff tonight, but we do have a lot to talk about for our randomized edition. And we're going to kick that off with some news that we actually talked about on the CacheLine program at the beginning of the week, which was Oregon 600 announcement from Garmin. And this is kind of that GPS I think a lot of us have been waiting for.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of a Montana Light, if you want to look at it that way. They've made a lot of good improvements to the 600 series, and you know, it's one of those that it would be worth an upgrade to go and get.
See, my thought on it was it really wasn't a Montana. It's more like the Montana one-upped in a smaller package, because this is their first unit that does the multi-touch. And we'll get into the specs right now so that you know, everyone knows what we're talking about. It does have the GLONASS support, which is that newer satellite system that can augment the GPS and make it better. They've given it a faster processor. It does have the multi-touch that we were talking about, and unlike most cell phones, it uses a multi-touch technology that works with gloves. So I think it was Nokia that had the first of these, and this is something that I'm really looking forward to. I don't know that you're so much into a unit that works with gloves as I am.
You know, we don't have to have as gloves. We don't have to wear gloves as often out here. There are times I wear them, but you know, most of the time I need something that's water resistant, because in the winter months we get a lot of rain. Yeah.
Well, and this is an all-new case design, so anyone who hasn't seen this yet, go and take a look at the links we're going to throw in the notes and really get a feel for this. I had problems talking about with gloves. The bezel on the Oregons, we have the 300 and the 450 here. When you had a glove on, you know, it would respond to the gloves, but the problem was if you tried to tap that with your finger, you couldn't get to the edge of the screen because you just had that big nasty thing. So this is a flush mount, and that's going to make it a little bit treacherous too, because if you drop it, you know, you're more likely to do damage to the screen than you were with the old one.
Yeah, but that old screen, I've dropped mine several times, and it's held up really well.
It does. We actually scratched the touch surface on one of those. However, because of the multi-touch, it's not going to have that like separate layer that you needed for the old technology that they were using. So the scratching and stuff that we saw is not going to be as likely with this new one. You know, we really have to get our hands on it to see what it's like, but
exactly,
that's going to be a big thing. And that top layer caused problems with the brightness of the LCD, and they have an all-new reflective display on this one. So this is going to be really important, and this is going to sell a lot of people on getting this new unit right out of the gate, because they claim that this is going to be twice as bright as the previous Oregon models.
Right. And there's a line in there that I don't quite understand. It uses the sun's light to produce a display that's twice as bright.
Well,
So,
that's because it's reflective. It's not requiring the backlight like the previous models did. It's we don't know for sure because we haven't seen this or had a teardown or anything. But my impression from what I've read is that this is basically a new hybrid of the old transflective technology that was all the rage back in the days of the Palm,
mhm.
when you couldn't get a backlight on a color LCD that was readable in sunlight at all.
The old TFT screens.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, with this screen, you're going to be able to rotate this device, much
Yeah.
like you can on the Montana. So you can have it portrait or landscape, and I assume the mount is powered in the same way. Along with all this, well, just in the 650 model, you're going to get an 8 megapixel autofocus camera with digital zoom, automatic flash that can be a light as well.
Yeah, definitely a nice feature there. But the other thing that the 650 has that I'm really looking forward to is a rechargeable battery pack, and it's optional for the
Mhm.
600 and the 600T. But this is a battery pack. I really want to take a look at this and find out what it's like, because it might just be a pair of AA NIMs that they've taped together. But it does allow you to charge in the unit itself, so you don't even have to pull the back off. And it's roughly about 16 hours is what they're quoting. I don't think you're going to get that, but if you're going to get even the 12 hours, that's more than
Mhm.
enough for most of my caching trips. So I'm never going to have to pull those off, pull those out and recharge them. I always have that option, to
Mhm.
go and swap in NIMS, or an extra pair of NIMS, or go back to alkaline or something like
Right.
that. But I like the idea of just, I never have to pull the batteries out. I just plug the thing into the charge station and I'm done.
Right. Some other changes in the software they mentioned are customizable buttons for one-touch image capture and waypoint marking. That's nice because, to be honest with you, in my Oregon, I rarely use the waypoint marking because it's so many steps.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not necessarily that you want the waypoints. You might want something else, like a quick button to go to the geocache mode.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm wondering is, we got to see what this is going to be like, because we've only seen the videos and stuff. And we'll link to a post on GPS track log about CES 2013 that had the hands-on videos and reactions from some other stuff as well. But it had the videos of this unit and some of the other things, and I really got a lot out of that, including a look at those battery packs that look like it's just the two AA's taped together.
Well, I know in the Montana, it's actually a very different battery pack than the battery. The Montana battery sits perpendicular to the double A's.
Right,
So
but this is not the case with the
exactly.
Oregon, and I think that's a factor of they didn't have the room to do that in this version, because it is a much smaller case than the
Yes.
Montana is, and the Montana requires a lot more power, so they were able to, because of that size, put a bigger battery
Hmm.
pack in there. This is not going to give you additional time over just NIMS from what I've seen in the videos
Hmm.
and in the specs, but on the Montana, as I understand it, you do get something like 50% more time on the battery pack than you get out of the uh, NIMS or
The replaceable batteries
yeah,
themselves, right?
yeah, exactly.
So if it has the charging capability, could you put rechargeable batteries in there and have them charge?
See, that's what I want to know, and I don't want to say for certain that they
Right.
can, but from the video, I think it's a high probability.
I would
And
speculate a guess that yes, you can.
exactly. But we've talked about what's the one thing that we keep saying we want our GPSs to do is the Bluetooth connection, so
Yes.
to our smartphones, so that we can get information on there. Well, this finally brings it to an outdoor unit. It's going to use that Basecamp mobile software that we had talked about a few shows back.
Hmm.
And Rich Owen said that we'd get the Android version. They said that there's an Android version of it coming. So guess what? We are getting the ability to send information to our GPS from our smartphone. However, it doesn't mention anywhere that it's going to support geocaches.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. And it might not
It
support
has
it
to.
initially.
It has to some point. At least a location specific format of some sort.
It does
Maybe
say
not
that it will do
GPX.
waypoints. Yeah,
Right.
it does say that it will support waypoints, so I'm sure we can somehow just send a waypoint to it. But it doesn't say specifically that it will support the geocaches. So, we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm.
What is really cool for cachers, though, is they now support an unlimited number of geocaches. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Now, we don't know how it supports an unlimited number. We don't know if you're allowed to swap GPX files in and out of its memory, or it just simply can access all the GPX files on your card or device at one time. That's something we'll have to look into.
Yeah, and we don't know if it's limited to what's in its internal RAM or whether it's limited to what's in the SD card or if it's either one. If it's either one, then that's going to be great. But if it's limited to just what you can put on the internal RAM, that could be pretty limiting because the internal RAM is not all that big. I want to say, oh shoot, I should have had it up, but I want to say it was only like 350 megabytes available on the base model 6, or no, that was a 600T, I think, that only had like 600 or 350 megs available. So if that's the case, that's
with the
not
topo
going to be a
maps
whole
loaded.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's going to be an issue. You can have a supposedly unlimited number of caches, but you're going to be limited to the size of the file for those caches, and that's what I'm really, really curious to see is, are they going to let you put it on the SD card? Because if so, then in theory you can stick a 32 gig card or something in there, and that would be great.
And if you run out of space on a 32 gig card, you're not caching enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we should also mention though that the 600, I think it said, had like 3 or 3.5 gigs available. So
right.
I think the 600 and the 600T are probably the same hardware. It's just a matter of whether they have those topo maps, and the topo maps are just getting loaded into RAM. So,
exactly.
Figure it's going to be 3 gigs of topo maps, which kind of sucks. And they did say that these are shipping first quarter. They do have prices out there. It's $400 to $750, I think it was.
Something have to like that. Yep.
Yeah,
$750
I'd have to go back and look at it, but it
starts at $400.
Okay, yeah, yeah, it starts at $400, but it is quite a premium to jump. I want to say it was $160 or something like that to jump from the base model to the one with topo. That's a big price jump. I don't recall the previous units being that expensive. I thought it was like $120 premium, and now they're going to tack on a bigger premium. So I was hoping that there was going to be more RAM in there, and there may be. It could be that they're giving us more RAM, but we're not seeing that in the specs because it is
specs
reserved.
Very well could be.
Now, Nighthawk 700 actually just posted that he thought it was $400 and $550 for the 600T. So that'd be a $150 premium, which sounds roughly in the ballpark I was thinking. So I will take his word for that. And why don't we move on, because we'll get a chance to look at these later, and we do have some listener feedback that we wanted to get to.
Now, Sandy of Team Orville wrote us via email, said, I'm planning a caching trip with my cousin. She lives in Wisconsin, and I live in California. I have a PC and use GSAC, and she has a Mac. What program can she download that will read a GPX file I send to her? I ran a PQ, but then I go through and edit the ones I don't want. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated.
All right. Now, I did reply to her, and I didn't get an answer back as to what she really means by just read the file. And there's all kinds of things that you can do. If you want to run GSAC on a Mac, you can run GSAC on a Mac. You do have to have a copy of Windows, and you can do that for free using the boot camp that comes with the Mac.
You can't
As
do the Windows for free, but you can run
no,
it for free.
right, right. The software is free to run it, but that's a matter of you reboot the Mac and it is a Windows machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not running at the same time. You can't switch back and forth. It becomes a Windows box, which works really well, and it is a very good way to run Windows. But it is annoying because you have to reboot between OSs.
Mm-hmm.
So there are something called virtual machines. And the virtual machines are Oracle's VirtualBox, which is free,
Mm-hmm.
Parallels Desktop for Mac, which is about $80, and VMware Fusion, which is about $50. And both of those two, you can actually find some good deals on them. And they will actually run a wider selection of operating systems. In Boot Camp, depending on which version of the operating system they're running on the Mac, depends on what OS you can run for Windows. If you're on the current version, you have to be running Windows 7. So
Okay.
it's like very little narrow things, If you want to run XP, there is no currently supported version of Mac OS. And actually, I guess 10.7 isn't even technically supported anymore. So 10.7 would support Vista and actually, I'm not
XP?
100% sure. No, it would not go to XP. I was going to say Vista and Windows 7, but I'm not
Windows 7.
100% sure Windows 7 was supported on 10.7. I think it was, but I'd have to go double check, and I should have done that beforehand. I apologize. But one of the other nice things about Parallels in VMware is you can actually buy the virtual machines with Windows and that kind of stuff. So it makes it really quick and easy. And that does give you the option to run your Windows and your Mac at the same time. I use that every day at work. That's the way that I do so much of my stuff is I have Parallels with a Windows XP load going, and I run a bunch of apps in there. I run a bunch of apps on my Mac, and they just copy and paste and toggle and do all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really nice. Now, I'm going to mention it because a couple of people have mentioned that this is working for them. I've tried it and it didn't work. There's a program called Crossover that doesn't it doesn't require Windows, but it is a virtual machine essentially. So if you wanted to try that, I think they have a trial version that you can do and download that and take a look at it. But I haven't been able to get it to work. It has all kinds of draw issues on my machine when I tried it, so I'm going to deem it as not working, but some people have reported it does work. Now, if we're just talking about taking that GPX file and loading it into the GPS, well, we talked with the creator of GPS Babel back on Beta 30, and that is a free app that will take that GPX file and just load it onto the GPS for you. It will convert it into all kinds of different formats, but it will load it onto the GPS. So if that's what you're looking for, it's a free, quick, and easy way to go. Now, there are also two native apps in the Apple macOS App Store, and the first one is Geocache Manager for $15. You can also buy it direct from the publisher's website for $20, which I don't really understand. But it is a Mac or Windows app, and they do have a free 30-day trial for it. So if you're looking for something more serious, that might be a good one. And another version is iCaching, which is also $15, but they don't have a trial version available. So I would recommend looking at the Geocache Manager first, since that does have the free trial to download and take a look at. I haven't tried either one of these. I couldn't tell you which one works better or which one doesn't work at all. So I really can't say anything about either one. They're there. If that's what you need, give it a shot. Unfortunately, all of the programs that I had been using when I actually used an app have gone unsupported long ago, because I have not used an app to load my GPSRs in quite a long time, and I'm literally just doing drag and drop of the pocket queries.
If you have a GPS that's been made in the last 5 years, it should have a USB port and support disk mode that you can just drag and drop your GPX files on. And if she's prepping the GPX file ahead of time, removing the ones she's not interested in, that should just work fine.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Now the problem is if you do the GSAC export, just the GSAC GPX export, it's not in a format that a lot of GPSs like. So you do have to usually do an export to 1.1, I think it is.
Right. GPX 1.1, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's been so long again since I've looked at that I don't remember.
1.0 works. It doesn't have all the attributes and that comes along with it. 1.1 is a little more extended and allows you to have all those little bits and pieces that make the paperless caching so much nicer.
Yeah, yeah. And 2 is what GSAC normally uses, I think, and that one is not liked by most GPSRs.
Right. Well, maybe the Oregon 600 will fix that.
Perhaps. And speaking of the Oregon 600, Nighthawk 700 did make note on the post after looking at the GPS track logs as to the price for each of those Oregon 600 models. So we'll run down that again real quick. And again, we had mentioned that in the cache line report, so those of you who watched the cache line report already know. But it's $400 basically for the 600. The 600T is $480, so it's a $180 premium to get the maps. The 650 is the same price as the 600T, and then you pay an extra like $70. It's $550 for the Oregon 650T. Now again, the 50s indicate that it has the camera and the NIM battery. The T indicates that it has the 100K topos.
Right. And are they offering the, I forgot it, water navigation maps?
It's taking the same maps from everything I've read. So Nighthawk 700 had also posted on the notes there that he doesn't recommend getting the topos because he prefers getting the third-party maps because they have the trails and stuff marked, which is an excellent point. I don't really, I kind of actually do want the T just because I do like having the topo maps, and the topo maps that it comes with are smaller than the third parties or the genuine topo whatever downloads that you can do. But I really don't want to spend the $180 for it. It's not worth that much for me. I'll just go and start playing with like the OSM maps. And I do have to admit that I kind of would want to try the City Navigator as well, or instead just to have that Nuvi mode, which I'm not sure that we actually mentioned. The 600s now have a Nuvi mode, so you can actually get the turn-by-turn directions with that screen that gives you all those pretty tulip drawings and stuff.
Tulip drawings, huh?
Yeah, that's actually what those are called, is tulips.
Oh, okay. That's one of the reasons why it has the rotated screen, is to be able to put it into Nuvi mode to get that wide screen so you can see your turns a little easier.
Oh, and Nighthawk 700 is correcting me. That's a $80 difference. So I misread his pricing.
You didn't do math in your head, did you?
Oh, yeah, it's $480. I was thinking it was $580. So yes, it is only an $80 difference, which isn't so bad.
No.
All right. Well, let's move on to a question that was emailed to us from unnamed Mike. Do you have any intel regarding Groundspeak experimenting with software/new script that scans the cache found history in search of recent history that could result in a cache being temporarily disabled? I brought this up in an event after a local reviewer disabled a serious amount of caches. Note, our reviewer lives on the computer and keeps the grid updated. I had 5 disabled, 2 of which were obviously inexperienced cachers looking for something beyond their experience.
Interesting. I have not heard of this at all, but maybe I'll have to run up to Groundspeak and see if I can buy him lunch and pry any information out of him.
Yeah, my understanding is that Groundspeak tends to be fairly secretive of the reviewer tools.
Hmm.
Uh, Again, this is coming to me like fourth or fifth hand, so I don't really trust the information too much. But the story was that they've had some problems with once people figured out some of the reviewer tools, they had hacked into the back end and gotten access to things they weren't supposed to have. So since then, they've been very secretive about it, and I'm not sure that I quite buy that, but it would make sense to why they would
It's
try to keep
possible.
that more secret. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not that the reviewers have, the keys of the kingdom, but they can see where stages of a multi are placed, and they can see where puzzle caches are placed, and that's the kind of information that you just don't want to leak out.
No, well, and the other thing, which apparently had become a big issue, is they can see the caches in review queue as well. So
Hmm.
people were going hunting FTFs before the cache was even viewed by a reviewer.
I'm still convinced that happened to me one time, but I digress. Um,
In any case, we haven't heard of any such scripting or whatever. I would not be terribly surprised if they did have something like that, in the works in
mhm.
testing, whatever. I know that last I had talked with a reviewer, they didn't have any good way to tell from DNF logs or anything like that what was going on. They were relying mostly on emails from various members of the community, and it highly encouraged people to email them if there was a problem. Typically, they wouldn't archive a cache right away.
Hmm.
If it had DNFs, they would usually contact the cacher and give them a couple of weeks and then archive it. So, or disable it.
Disable, right.
Yeah, and then archive if they still haven't heard from them. So yeah, it's one of those. I think it's a reviewer by reviewer thing. I had heard someone mention at one point that their reviewer was playing with GSAC through the live API and doing a lot of the download all the caches in his territory kind of thing, and having that do some of the analysis. So it could be something as simple as this reviewer is using some of those kind of tools that we all have
Yeah, using a
to
third-party
figure
tool
that
that we all
stuff.
have access to. Exactly.
Right. And quite honestly, that would probably make a lot of sense for Groundspeak to just do something like that. Unlimited number of API calls for these reviewer accounts, and give them access to GSAC, and give them a license for GSAC, and let GSAC do the work since it already does that.
Right. And, does it offline, nobody can have access to it. That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's quick, it's robust, it's there.
Right.
They don't have to do any work. So I would not be one bit surprised if that's all this is. However, at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they were doing something more sophisticated as well.
Right. Well, Munzie, for example, if there's two DNFs on Munzie, it will temporarily disable the Munzie and send a note to the owner to say, hey, go look, some people can't find your Munzie.
Yeah, well, they have a maintenance mode, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like the needs maintenance flag, and that's actually what it does. It doesn't totally disable it,
You're right. You're right.
but I think after 30 days, then it does disable it. So, it's a great way to work. And if they did something like that, it would take the reviewer out of it entirely. And that's,
Hmm.
if they were to be working on something like that, I think that would be the reason why, would be to take the work away from the reviewer. Because that is a lot of work, even if it is done, in the background through GSAC. If they get a list of caches that they'd have to, review, they have to go and find each one of those and review it and find out, oh, well, this is just a hard puzzle cache that someone didn't do, or
Exactly.
this is a really tricky hide. And that's the problem, even with the way that Munzie has done it. There are some of those Munzies out there that have been thrown into maintenance mode, where the owner has to go out and find it just to keep it from going archived,
Hmm.
so that because it is a tougher hide. It's oh well, it's tucked in between these two boards of a bridge or something like that.
Right. You got to look at it
Stuff
at
that.
just the right angle.
Yeah, exactly. There are those situations where it's just a really tricky hide, and you wouldn't want something that's automated.
Hmm.
So it's I go both ways. Yes, it's nice to have that kind of hands-off, quick response. Munzie, the second person scans it, it's boom, it's there. Everyone knows instantly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
If you did that with geocaches, though, because there are so many of those really tricky hides, I don't think that's necessarily such a good idea.
Maybe it can be weighted on the difficulty of the cache.
Yeah, that could be a good way to do it, and I'm sure that if they were working on it, that'd be something they'd have to take into consideration.
Yeah, I want my royalty from that. Now, we'll move on to one more question from our friend Nighthawk 700. It says, I don't know if this qualifies for gearhead or not, but since you guys seem to focus more on the technical side of the house, yesterday I learned the value of a good set of boots. I'd gotten new boots a few months ago, and they were fine. But yesterday I went for a geocache and wound up hiking 5 miles round trip. I discovered the boots are a tad big on my feet. As a result, they were sliding around a bit. Not enough for the short hikes that there'd be any problems, but now it feels like I might have some small blisters on the bottom of my feet. I guess I'll have to look for a better fitting pair soon. DeBear also added in on Google+. He says, I had this problem a lot, and here I have a solution that works for me, double socks. What I do is wear a set of sport socks, your basic thin cotton tube sock, and over that I wear a thick work sock, nice and padded. The ones I use are designed for warmth in winter, but I suspect any will do. It seems to give my feet both extra padding and has completely eliminated blisters. So there you go. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, when you get into hiking boots and hiking in general, there's a lot more to it than you might think of just going out and buying boots and socks and going out hiking. And I found that this is the same case with a lot of things. Cycling, I need special socks and shoes to work well with my bike. Running, it's the same kind of thing. Special shoes and socks. You can do just about anything you want, but it's not going to be as good. You're not going to have that nice, pleasant experience. So in any of these cases, your best resource can be a good local expert supply shop. I usually go to REI for my hiking boots and socks. And they're very, very helpful. And REI is great because of that return policy. If it doesn't work, you return and get something that does work.
Exactly.
Which is also something to really look forward to if you are in that boat of trying to get new equipment and really entertain the options and figure out which ones are going to work well for you. Bike shops, if you're getting into the biking, will do this, not the exchange and stuff quite so easily, but they will have people there who can really work through and help you out. Running shops, I have really started to pop up in the last few years, and if you're into the running, then go and see those guys. But yeah, when I go out hiking, I have a couple of different types of hiking socks, one for the thermal and one for the regular stuff. And all of these hiking socks that I've used and found are really, really thick, breathable material. And one of the problems that I had was not getting the right sock on when I went into the store to try on the hiking boots. So I ended up with boots that were a little too small.
Right. Growing up in the Midwest, we wore double socks all the time. When you're out hiking in the snow, playing in the snow as a kid, it's very easy to get your boots wet, and then your feet get wet and cold. And once your feet get cold, it's pretty miserable. So I'm always used to wearing double socks when I go out in the cold. This last hike I took, it was an 8-mile hike. I wore double socks. It's just my nature to do so. But yeah, it's important that you get, when you go and try your shoes on, that you wear the socks you're going to wear when you do that event. So if you're getting hiking boots, wear the double socks.
Yeah, I happen to not like the double socks so much because I've had problems with the socks creating problems for me. So it's one of those preferences things. Double socks work well for a lot of people. I do like the dedicated hiking socks, and that's why I've got the thermal hiking socks and then not so thermals. I will recommend one brand, which I actually don't own more than like one or two pairs, but they are beautiful, and that's Smart Wool. Those are some beautiful, comfortable socks, and especially in the summer, I have not had any other sock that handles the hot, sweaty feet quite as well as they do.
I have a pair of those myself. Now, I'm going to let you into a little secret. Here in the Midwest or in the Northwest, we'll wear socks with sandals, and those Smart Wool are really good for that. So,
yeah, they have some warm socks, and they have some,
very breathable socks.
Very breathable socks, yeah. Well, and even their warm socks are very breathable, but it's a matter of how much heat are they going to help you retain. And it really amazed me at how much difference a good quality sock like that can make. So, if you're just trying to get the first pair of a good set of socks on, I would recommend you probably look at the Smart Wools to start with. Once you've gotten that down, then you have a little bit more experience with it, and you can start looking at some of the other ones. And I ended up actually with the REI House brand is what most of my socks are.
There you go. So if you have any questions, of course, you can email us. You can call in your questions to area code 206-350-3647, or you can simply put it up on G+, and other GeoGearHeads will help you out.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things is we do have such an amazing community on the Google Plus side of things. We don't really get so much anymore through Twitter and Facebook. I don't have Facebook, so I can't really say much about that. But you were checking into Facebook and said that that's gotten a little bit more active for us lately.
We have gotten a whole lot of likes in the last week or two. More significantly more than in the weeks prior. So, if obviously we're doing something right, I do monitor the Facebook page for GeoGearHeads. So, if you're on Facebook, give us a like. You can ask questions there. I'll get it on the show, or I'll move it over to Google Plus and let some more people answer it as well.
Yeah, and we love getting all of these kind of questions and handling it and sharing it with you guys on the randomized shows like this. But we do really appreciate you spreading the word about GeoGearHeads, because that's the best way for other cachers to learn about it and pick it up. And we've had some emails from cachers lately who have just picked up the show and are really enjoying it. So please spread the word. Let them know where to find us. That's cachemaniacs.com. And we'd love to have them on the show, or not on the show, but listen to the show. On the show next week, though, we're going to have Bell's Angels, and we're going to talk about that near-field communication stuff we've talked about last year. And he's got a cache down in Australia that's actually using NFC, so that'll be a great one to learn more about. And following that, we have Aztec on to talk about Neon Geo, that great Android caching app.
Yeah, I do like Neon Geo. Now, check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes from this and all our episodes. We'd love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniac shows coming. Please consider making a PayPal donation through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniac shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show is copyright 2013 by Daryl Wattenberg, all rights reserved.